Hey there guys, Rick here. Hope you're all doing extremely well out there. I know I am. Today we're going to do a live stream which isn't a live stream. What do I mean by that? It means that I'm just going to kind of do the things that I would do on a normal live stream, but just record it for you properly with proper audio. But I'm just going to do it off the cuffs as I would with a live stream. So it's kind of like a live stream which isn't a live stream, which is a first for my channel. Anyway, I just wanted to talk a little bit about how I improvise. I've had a lot of questions about what I'm doing with some of the licks. I uploaded a little thing yesterday and had a few questions about that, and what is my thought process, and you know, the kind of things that I think about, and chords, harmony, scales, tips, tricks, all the rest of it. So I'll just kind of do a I just thought I'd press record on the video and just, you know, go through it and kind of like figure out what the hell I'm doing, because I have no idea what I'm doing. Well, up to a point. I kind of like to let myself go. So there's one thing that we've learned already. You know, I am using things that I've used before, but I like to, you know, forget them as I'm doing it. Anyway, first things first, whenever you see somebody releasing a video on the internet, usually it's cherry picked, okay? That's the first thing that you've got to understand. So that's very, very important, that a lot of the stuff that you see, even improvisation videos, there can be like, it could be one of 20 takes that is, you know, cherry picked out of those 20, you know, or it could be the first take. So what I'm trying to get at here is not pick faults, because I do the same thing. Sometimes I'm not in the zone and it takes me quite a few takes to do something I'm happy with. Sometimes I'm just like, hey, fog it. I'm just going to do the first take, and whatever it is going up, you know, and more often than not, they're usually better, although it's not always the case. Anyway, I'm digressing here, but just bear that in mind whenever you watch videos on the internet, you know. You never know whether you're watching something that's been cherry-picked or not. So just, you know, that's important. Anyway, so what I'm going to do is kind of like, this is a, you know, like I say, a live stream kind of thing, which isn't live. But I'm just going to show you what's going on in my head and kind of the things that I think about when I'm improvising. Okay, so the first thing that I usually do is I'll pick either a motif or a phrase or even just a key to start with. It's important that you've got something to start with, because if you have no idea in your head, you're not going to know where you're going to go, you know. So sometimes it's worth taking the risk, other times not. So if you've got just a simple phrase, whether it's just a slide, okay, I've already started off on a journey there. So that was just supposed to be an example. Really simple. So I'm just going to continue on that journey. So where was I? I kind of started in A. So I'm always thinking of key centers, by the way, always. Now I change to E minor, to C, which is like a 6/4 thing in terms of chords. And that's basically what I was just doing there. It's crazy when you think about it, because you can sit and stop and say, hang on, I was doing this chord progression, moving to this, but it happens so quickly, you know. So just that little thing here. So I started off in A minor, and then use that motif to just move to E minor. Very simple, non-complex sort of key change there. So we're playing over a C chord here. So kind of Lydian. And then what I did was use a passing tone to D, which is chord number 5, D7. Then another passing chord. Diminished chords are usually great for that. You know, that's really generally their function, you know, because they usually work best in a kind of, not always, but a non-functional way. In other words, you would just slam it in as a passing chord, because that's usually, you know, how they sound great. They kind of connect two chords. Same with augmented. So they usually allow you voice leading. So we're on to something else now, voice leading, really, really important. So they're two interconnecting things, you know, voice leading and those chords that you kind of, to use a technical term, slip in between. Hope you understand what I'm talking about here. So I've just rabbited on about something really that has taken 2 seconds to do. So where was I? A minor. So this is all diatonic. Use a passing diminished chord to get me from one chord to the next. So now I've arrived at E minor. Now Dorian there because I put in a major 6. So before I actually modulated to E Aeolian, but now just by slamming in the 6th, I've turned it into chord number 2 in the key of D. See how easy it is when you're improvising to just change key, just by adding, if you're knowledgeable with your chord formula and, you know, ultimately you know what sounds good and you know what works, then you can just do it simply just by adding one note in. Okay, so here I'm thinking, so I've chord number 2 here, chord number 1 here, and I've moved to A7. And you'll hear me do that a lot in my playing. So I've gone from D major there to E7. So what's going on there? I'm using secondary dominant. Instead of using E minor, I'm going E7. So and I'm back to A major again. Well, it was A minor we started with, but parallel major key. Okay, where am I going to go now? I can hear a G, D, but it's not quite A major, that's A mixolydian. So I've got the flat 7 in. Right, I'm getting sick of the same kind of keys now. So now I've gone to F sharp. Okay, that's F sharp minor. I'm using F sharp minor, melodic minor. But if I want to modulate back to E major, which is one of the keys I played previously, I can just slam in a B7. And I'm back there. Generally, what I'm trying to say here is there's a lot going on in my head, you know, in terms of when I'm improvising. A lot of it I will just let out and just allow to happen, you know, and sometimes mistakes happen, and mistakes are great. You know, mistakes are welcome in the practice room. We don't give a shit about those. This is about investigating sounds, chords, you know, all the rest of it. I haven't talked about technique, but let's face it, a lot of the videos I've done on YouTube are all about technique, so perhaps we can look at that in a later video. But this is the primary thing that I think about when I'm improvising. I think about chords and where I can take them, you know. One little tip that I will use that I really, really like to do is that if I'm using a 2-5-1, I'll generally use just dominant chords most of the time, but mainly because a 2 is already included, as the late great Joe Pass said. In a 2-5-1, the 2 chord is already included in the 5 chord as a suspended chord here. So I'll infer that just by adding a suspended note in there to infer the 2. Anyway, just to go back to what I was saying before I digress too much, I've got to keep this short because this video is going to cut out any second. But one thing I really like to do is use interrupted cadences in 2-5-1s. So let's say, for instance, let's take it to E minor. I could use 2, 5. But instead of going to 1, which I almost did there, I will go to chord number 6, which is kind of the classical equivalent of an interrupted cadence. Anyway, I just wanted to throw that in at the end. This camera's going to shut off any second, but I just wanted to say, you know, these are the kind of things I think about when I'm improvising. So it's generally harmony and harmonic movement. Anyway, I'm going to do another one of these. Hope you enjoyed this one. I'll catch up with you guys real soon. Take care.